why your coaching content gets the views but actually ends up with no clients. So if you're a coach and you're creating content and you're getting some views, but you're not getting the clients, posting more, I promise you, probably isn't the answer because views prove one thing, and it's this: someone stopped and someone looked. But that does not prove that the person who watched the video understands what you do. And it definitely does not prove that they know what to do next. Hi, I'm Matt, and I've been a full-time coach and content creator since 2018. I've been on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. This is a new YouTube channel for me here, but I know because I've fallen into this trap myself. And I promise you, posting consistently, getting likes, getting comments, even having your video go viral probably still isn't getting new clients because you're probably wondering, well, why isn't any of this stuff turning into clients? I'm doing all the right things, surely. Well, from coaching hundreds of coaches, it usually comes down to four gaps in your content. And the four gaps are this: clarity, trust, connection, and direction. And if your content is getting that attention, but it's not creating the business, well, probably one of those four is probably causing the problem. So let's start with the very first one. The first one, like I said, is clarity. A lot of coaching content out there is super useful, but it's also blurry. It's blurry at the same time. People can watch it and think, well, that is a really good point, but they still don't know really who the coach helps, what problem this coach solves, or why they should go to even this coach instead of someone else saying something very similar. And this is called the clarity gap. And this is where people confuse useful content with this thing called positioning. They are not the same thing. You could actually give someone something really super useful, some amazing a piece of advice, a hack, a tip, something that they could actually implement and use, and still leave them completely 100% unclear about what you actually do. So I would love to give you a really simple test, but it can be super useful to give you clarity around this problem. And it's this: if a stranger watched your last three videos, could they explain who you help and what problem you solve? And of course, you can turn that even into written content if you're posting on LinkedIn or you do written posts on Instagram or Facebook. Again, the question there would be, if a stranger read my last three posts, could they explain who I help and what problem I solve without using clever terminology, such as the techno gabble that Russell Brunson calls it all the time? So, in their own words, could they say, oh, this person helps someone like me solve this problem? And if they can't, you probably have that thing called the clarity gap. And the answer isn't to make your content more complicated. Always remember Donald Miller: if you confuse, you lose. So complicated isn't the answer. Actually, it's the opposite. Make it way simpler. Okay? Say who you are talking to and then name the problem and repeat your point of view. I'll give an example. I don't want someone to watch my content and simply think, oh, Matt talks about business, because business is way too broad, okay? And then I'm competing with Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, all these people, okay? Business is too broad. I want the right person, the right coach, the right mentor to understand that I talk about the gap between knowing I should do this stuff, knowing what creates clients, and this problem. The problem is actually doing that stuff and doing it consistently enough so we can actually create clients. And that's the position. And once your content starts to build a position in someone's mind, it becomes easier for them to understand why they should keep listening to you. But again, being clear isn't enough, because someone could understand now exactly what you do and still not trust you to help them. And that brings me to gap number two, which is trust. Generic advice is everywhere. Okay, you could go to YouTube now and say, teach me sales, and spend a lifetime consuming a gazillion videos. And most of it is very generic advice, or you could procrastinate all day in ChatGPT. So what do I mean by generic advice in a video? I could just come here now and say, you need to post consistently. Anyone could do that. Anyone can tell you to, oh, you need to follow up more. The money's in the follow up. Anyone can tell you, you need to be making more offers. The information itself doesn't automatically make someone trust your judgment. Trust, real trust, starts building when people can see exactly how you think. When you don't just tell them what to do, you show them what you're noticing. You show them your unique insights. So instead of saying, you need to post more, imagine I said something like this: hey, coach, you posted 5 times this week, but every post is educational, and none of them tell the viewer who you help, what problem you solve, or what they should do next. Now, you see, that is a very different conversation. And one is another tip. Yeah, you need to post more. But the other is a diagnosis. And that's what your content needs to demonstrate: your judgment, your way of looking at the problem, your unique way, the thing you notice that the viewer hasn't even noticed themselves yet. Because there's a massive difference between someone thinking, wow, that was helpful, and someone thinking, I like this person looking at my problem. Yeah, this makes sense. I would love for them to come and help me look at my problem I'm having. And that's what builds trust. But even when your content is clear, and even when you know what you're talking about, there can still be another problem. And that brings us to the third thing, which is connection. People can learn from you without ever feeling like you're talking to them. And that's a big problem when it comes to coaching. Well, why? Obviously, coaching is personal. You're asking someone to trust your judgment enough to let you into a problem that they actually care about. So it's not enough for them to understand the lesson. They need to feel understood by the person teaching it. And that's what the next thing is. This was all about, this connection thing. You need to be precise. You need to be very specific. This matters so much. You see, if I say coaches struggle with procrastination, fine, fine. But there's nothing particularly personal about that. Now compare it with this. Now compare it with this. Coach, you spent an hour changing the wording on a post because publishing it means someone might actually judge it and say something really mean. That's different. You see, that's different. One, again, is a fact, and one, because now the right person thinks, oh, that's me. Or it could be this. I've got 3 people to follow up with, but somehow redesigning my website is the priority. Again, that is recognizable. Loads of people, loads of coaches I speak to avoid conversations, sending DMs, making a video, and they always focus on redesigning a website and a logo, and this is the priority. And when they describe that thing that they've actually done, it's recognizable for them. And when someone hears you put words around a real experience they are having privately, this is how connection starts to happen. They don't just think, oh, this person knows about marketing. They think, man, this person understands me. They know what's going on in my world. And that's really powerful. But yeah, there's still one more gap. And this is where a lot of good content fails commercially, meaning I get that client. And that is direction. You see, you can be clear, you can build this thing called trust, you can create that connection. and you'll still get no clients because the viewer gets to the end of the content and still has absolutely no idea what to do next. I'm sure you've seen this. I'm sure you've even done it yourself, but I'm sure you've watched a video and someone's made a really good video. They teach something super useful. And at the end, it says, well, the coach says, oh, I hope this helps. Or the content creator says, hope you enjoyed this. And you're sitting there thinking, well, okay, but what now? I've spent this time with you. And you as the coach, you spent 5 minutes building attention and trust, and then you leave the person hanging there. They're just standing there thinking, well, what do I do? A viewer doesn't magically become a client because they enjoyed the thing that you made. At some point, the attention has to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere. Now, that doesn't mean every single video you make should end with this big sales pitch. It's like a master webinar. That's not what I'm saying. Direction could mean even just watching the next video. You should definitely watch one of my other videos. It could mean taking some kind of assessment or quiz to diagnose the problem they have. It could mean sending you a message or sending you an email or booking a conversation or opting into a free thing or going to a live event or a challenge or a community. Whatever those things, it could just be take one action from watching this video, but the person needs to know what is the next step. And this is where coaching content can get very interesting. Okay, content you're trying to get a client from, because teaching is safe. Again, it's super safe. It's safer than actually having to invite someone to move closer to you. That feels very different. It's easy to keep providing value forever and ever and ever, but it's more exposed to say, if this is the problem you're dealing with, here's how I can help. Here's how you can work with me. And that's why some coaches are brilliant at educating and terrible at creating this thing called direction. They will teach, they will teach, they will teach, and teach some more and wonder why no one ever buys. At some point, your content it must lead somewhere. So please think about these 4 questions. Is this for me? Do I trust this person? Does this person understand me? And what do I do now? This is your content audit. And like I said, if you're getting views, but it's not creating conversations and clients, I would suggest one of those questions, or maybe more, is just going unanswered. So I would really invite you to do this. Don't immediately create another post. Go back to your last piece of content and view it as your dream customer. Put yourself in their shoes and look at it as if you've never seen your business before, and ask yourself, can someone clearly tell who this content is for? Does it demonstrate how you think, or is it advice anyone could have given? Does the right person feel recognized? And when the content ends, is there an obvious next step? Find the weakest gap and fix that one. Don't need to fix the whole business, the whole brand, not your whole content strategy. Just look for one gap. That's where I use the doing mode principle, my coaching principle, one of the many principles in my coaching programs, which is this: see it, simplify it, and do it. See where the content is breaking down. Simply the fix, and then change the content. Okay, so let me say it again: see it, simplify it, do it. See where the content is not working. You want to simplify the fix by fixing the one thing, and then actually change the piece of the content. Maybe you need to clarify who the post is for. Maybe you need to replace the generic example with something your audience has actually experienced. Maybe you give the person a clear next step. Just fix one thing though. Don't get overwhelmed and publish it again. But, and it's a big but, there's one final question I want you to ask yourself, because sometimes you may not even have a content problem. In fact, you're hiding inside of content. And this is for you if you're posting every day, but you're not following up with anyone. In other words, you're not starting conversations. You're not inviting people to work with you. You're not making offers. Then more content may not be the answer. In fact, it may be the worst thing to do. Content may have become your safe place to hide, your safe work. And that is the living, doing gap in real life. In other words, you know the business needs more than views, okay? It needs, doesn't need more comments, okay? But all that feels safer than actually talking to a real human being. So don't measure a week. Don't look back on a week only on how much content you produce and how many likes did I get, how many comments did I get. Don't measure it like that. Ask yourself, how much of your work has actually created contact with another human being, a real conversation? Because views are attention. That's what we want, of course, but they're not the finish line. Your content needs to help the right person understand you, trust you, feel understood by you, and then know what to do next. So remember, clarity, trust, connection, direction. So before you publish anything tomorrow, audit the last thing you posted, find the weakest gap, fix it, and don't come back here and tell me you're planning to fix it. Please fix it first, and then come back and celebrate. Just post one word, fixed. Find the gap, fix the gap, and then move. I've been Matt, you've been amazing. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.